Hi, it's Kimberly and welcome to the HR Strategist YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be about your employees' use of social media on and off duty. The title of this video is Help! My employees are sharing too much information on social media. According to the stats, there's 2.3 billion active individuals on social media. Each individual have about 5.54 accounts. There are 500 million tweets sent each day, and Instagram has about 80 million photos uploaded daily. And Facebook, 1.6 billion active users. I got the idea to do this video from a post that I saw in one of my LinkedIn groups in which an individual asked the question, what do you do when your employees are sharing too much information on social media? And of course, there were a couple of comments as to what you should do. And as I expected, most of them were surrounding legal ramifications and how to handle this matter according to the law. And that is absolutely awesome. But I wanted to take a different look at this situation, put a spin on it. Because what do you do when the information that is shared on social media is not necessarily a violation of the law? It does not necessarily rise to the level of termination or reprimand. So, for example, I have battled this situation a couple of times throughout my career, at least over the past couple of years or so. And there are two distinct situations that come to mind. The first one is a young lady who posted a picture of herself in her work area. Now, it just so happens that she worked in a secured area. She was a bookkeeper, so she worked around a lot of cash. And on her downtime, she took a picture of herself in the work area and posted it on Facebook. Now, the second situation was a female manager who had a situation with a male subordinate, and they must be got into an altercation at work, and she was venting on Facebook again as well. And in both cases, this information got back to me via another employee because, as you know, employees are friends with one another on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all of these other social media outlets. So when they see something that's a little disturbing, they either say something to a supervisor who then brings it to the manager, or they bring it directly to the HR department. So as you can see in both of those cases, you can say there's not really anything legally wrong with the things that the employees did. It was bad judgment, but not necessarily legally wrong. Now, I want to discuss the legal ramifications of social media posts and reprimanding employees according to what you see on social media. So, of course, there is the National Labor Review Act, which states that employees can post information that is surrounding the work area. Some of that stuff is protected if they're talking about their work conditions and if they're talking about their salary and they feel they have unfair treatment. All of that is permissible, and you cannot or you should not reprimand employees for that type of information being posted on social media, but you want to check with your legal counsel on that one. Then you have different laws, depending on the state that you're in, that states what you can and cannot do. So you want to check out your state laws. And then there, of course, there's federal laws like whistleblower laws. So if the employee is posting something about what your company is doing that is unethical, then that is also protected information as well, and they have the right to do that. But in the cases that I'm talking about, it's those little, again, bad judgment situations where your employees post things that just could have been better off left out of social media. And so we're going to talk about that because in each case, I found myself in a room full of supervisors who are either on one or two sides. Number one, side A will say, well, it's not that bad. It's just their personal opinion, and surely everyone has free speech in the United States, so I think we should just let it ride. And then you have Team B that's saying, yeah, you have free speech, but if what you're saying affects me or affects the company and the job that I work for, the department that I work in, then no, that's not permissible. So on the one hand, you got someone who's saying I can Snapchat, tweet, post, whatever I want to. And then on the other hand, you got the other group saying, no, you cannot snap, tweet, chat, post, whatever you want to if it affects me. And as the HR manager, you're actually smack dead in the middle, or as the manager of the department, you're in the middle because you're thinking in your head, yeah, kind of sort of both sides are right, but what do you do? And so I wanted to give you 5 steps, 5 tips that you can implement to address these type of situations. It has worked well for me in the past, and I want to share them with you because you definitely want to make sure you address these type of situations before they get out of hand. First step I want you to do is actually go out there and review the post. So if someone brings some information to you saying so and so has this post on their social media account that I don't think is right and it talks about the job or someone on the job, then you want to go out there and see the post for yourself. So if this individual has made a copy of the post, ask them to send it to you. If you have access to the person's social media site, go out there and take a look at it. And not only do I want you to take a look at it and review it, I actually want you to make a copy of it because I want you to put it in your investigation records just in case your employee finds out that there is an investigation going on and they decide to delete the post. But you want to go out there and see exactly what they're saying because if it is something that is confidential, something that talking about trade secrets or talking about personal information of your customers, things of that nature, personal information of your employees, you definitely want to get your legal counsel involved so that you'll know how to address this employee. But if it's something simple as far as 2 employees going back and forth about the workspace and they mention the name of the job, or again, someone posts a picture of themselves in a secure work area, you definitely want to have a conversation with these individuals. Call the individuals in for a meeting. You want to talk to them, you want to get their side of the story before you start typing up any type of termination letters and reprimand disciplinary actions. Get their side of the story because this is what I found, especially in the case of the young lady who actually posted the picture on Facebook. She wasn't even thinking about her responsibility as an employee to make sure that the area is secure and that she doesn't provide any information that may lead to any type of criminal activity or that will actually put the organization in a vulnerable situation. She just thought she was cute for the day and just had some downtime and thought she would just see what's out there on social media and post a picture of herself on Facebook. So as innocent as that may sound, but it actually puts the company in a vulnerable spot. So it's just simple as having a conversation and just trying to see what they're thinking. In the situation of the supervisor who is having an issue with her employee, you definitely want to wrap your arms around that one. You want to know what was the cause of this situation, when did it start, how long it's been going on, and how many other employees is involved. Those are the questions you want to ask the individual themselves before you go typing up any type of paperwork because that is important. So what I have found is this. When your employees, shall I say, become friendly with other employees, whether they're their subordinates or their peers, they tend to meet up after work and then they get into these situations after work that they bring back to the workplace. Those are the things that I don't think HR should get involved in. Nevertheless, we do have the responsibility to have a conversation with each employee and let them know what we will and will not tolerate. We hired them to do the job and we expect that they will do their job, and anything that they do off duty, they need to make sure they separate from their responsibilities at the place of employment. So if they are bickering about something that started at work but ended out in the streets, you want to make sure that they know what your expectations are. Your job is to do X, Y, and Z. According to our policy, you will do X, Y, and Z. And anything outside of those parameters will result in further disciplinary action, may include termination. You may have to say it just like that to make them understand that we will not tolerate all of this back and forth that goes on outside of the workplace. If it's something that is work related, we'll deal with it. You will deal with it, but you will not deal with information and things that happen outside. You just don't want to get tangled up in that type of information. So once you have had a talk with the individuals, you actually then want to deal with the root cause. It is a situation situation where there is confrontation between the subordinate and manager, you want to find out, where did this begin? What happened? Is it the cause of a policy or a procedure that the manager was enforcing or not enforcing that put a bad taste in the employee's mouth, and so they started going back and forth? What is the issue? You want to know whether or not the job has contributed to the downfall of this relationship, so that you may take a look at your policies and procedures if necessary. Because in some cases, what we ask our managers to do or employees to do may have an effect on their relationships with their peers, depending on if one person is following and the other person is not. So you want to address those type of things and the root cause. And then in the case of the young lady with the pictures, you just want to bring it to her attention of the situation and the position she could place the company with posting this type of sensitive information on social media. And so once you have dealt with the situation, now you actually want to deal with the employee. You have a social media policy, you want to enforce it, and if it turns out that the employee is due some type of disciplinary action, you want to make sure that you go ahead and serve that particular action. Now, if you don't have a social media policy, I encourage you to do so immediately, because social media is not going away anytime soon. So you want to make sure your employees know what they can and cannot do, or what, shall I say, what you would tolerate or what you expect and what you do not expect. So this can be a little tricky because a lot of people do use social media, and a lot of people have personal websites and personal blogs outside of the workspace. So for example, if I work for a company as an HR professional, and then I have my side business in HR, or if I run an HR blog on the side, it needs to be clear that what I state on my blog outside of the workplace has nothing to do with the employer, so that the employer won't be type of association with anything that I say that may come under fire, if you will. So that's very important. So you need to make sure that your employees know, yes, you have a right to engage in social media outside of work, but you need to make sure it's clear that these are your ideas, your words, your suggestions, and has nothing to do with your employer. And then you have to deal with whether or not they're actually using social media while on duty. So yeah, that's not much that you can do, and there are some limitations as to how much you can do or how much control you have over what they do outside of work. But when they're on duty, you have a great deal of control, especially if posting on social media is not a part of their regular job responsibilities. So if the manager that we talked about went on a rant while on duty, so say for example, she just had this confrontation with the individual, and then all of a sudden she goes away to her work area and start posting on social media about her day and what's going on with this particular employee. That is against policy. That should be against policy, because surely this individual has better things to do, and you hired them to do a particular function. And if social media posting is not one of them, you need to make sure that you address that type of behavior. So the good thing about social media is it's date stamped. You know exactly when someone uploads something. And in some cases, you actually know the location of where they uploaded that information. So that's good information to have. That's why I say make a copy of the post so that you can have that information at your fingertips as well. So you want to go ahead and create a policy and state what's permissible and what's not permissible in terms of social media posting. And then once you have done that, I want you to go ahead and address the organization as a whole. Now, I'm not saying go put all the details of the situation that just happened out to everyone so that everyone is on blast and understand what just occurred. That's not important. What is important is that they understand your position. One of the things I think we do wrong in HR is we fail to communicate on a consistent basis. So for example, we'll bring in an individual, we'll onboard them, we'll have them sign for a manual that states they received the company handbook, which and sometimes often have a little blurb that says they're responsible for all the content inside of the handbook. So whether they read it or not, they're on the hook for it, and so they sign for it. And the moment that they violate it, the first thing we do is say, let me find that acknowledgement form that states this person understands what we expected them. They received the handbook, they signed for it, they read it, they understand it, so therefore they are going to be held responsible for this information. Now, that is legally bounding. It helps you. Trust me, I've used that a lot, several times when I am fighting for the company in a hearing. But my question to you is, do you really think it's fair? I don't. I have to say that I don't. Because think about it this way. You have to keep your expectations on the minds of the individuals that you're dealing with, and that includes your employees. I like to think about it this way. Say, for example, you watch an hour-long program, and on that, within that hour, you've probably seen one commercial, probably 5, 6 times maybe. So it could be you're not even thinking about this particular service or this particular product, but you see it constantly for a whole hour. And if you watch that program every week, 9 times out of 10, that same commercial is running every week or every day, depending on what you're watching. And before you know it, when something comes up, the first thing that comes into your mind is that commercial product or service that you saw while you was watching TV. It got into your psyche, it got into your consciousness due to repetitiveness. And that's what we need to do to our employees. Put it on their minds so they'll know when they encounter a situation what they should and should not be doing. So again, sometimes employees are just not aware of the ramifications of what they're doing. They're just innocently venting online or sharing fun times with their peers or with their friends on social media, and not thinking about how it impacts you as the employer. But you want to make sure that they understand what's acceptable and what is not. So when you come across a situation that does not necessarily rise to the level of reprimand or termination, you want to do those 5 things. I promise you it will help you get a hold of this situation. Well, that's going to do it for today. If you'd like to contact me, Kimberly Herring, please email me at kherring@thehrstrategist.net. I also invite you to share this information with your network and to subscribe to information from the HR Strategist. Visit thehrstrategist.net. Until next time, please remember to be strategic about your business, and thank you for watching.